Once abdominal fat gathers, then a young woman is definitely inviting trouble for herself. But if you're just gymming and doing muscles and you're looking fit, that's not good. There are specific asanas and processes. If they do this, the basic body chemistry can be brought to such a level of balance within you, and this is the solution for the future generations.
Namaskaram Sadhguru. What can young women do to safeguard their health and prevent significant health issues in the future?
In today's world, the way the society is structured, the way the many aspects of life has arranged itself, women have to care much more about their health than men. Simply because nature has invested a very elaborate reproductive system in a woman. We were all born out of a woman's womb, so there was an elaborate system inside. Normally, if you look back, they would start using the reproductive system by the age they were 15, 16. It was put to use probably throughout their life. At least throughout their reproductive life, in some way it was put to use. If a woman had 6 or 7 or 8 children in her lifetime, most probably it was spread out throughout, so reproductive organs were used in a certain way. Because of that, she did not have those issues as they have today. Another reason is, both men and women, of course, were working hard physically, physical work. Because of physical work, there never was any fat around the abdomen. At a young age, if a girl gathers abdominal fat, she is asking for it. There's simply no two ways about it. She is just asking for it, it will come. How soon or how late depends on various genetic and other aspects of life. But once abdominal fat gathers, then a young woman is definitely inviting trouble for herself, it'll come. Not enough activity, physical activity I mean. They may be working in an office, that doesn't mean anything, because that's not physical enough. If you're working in a field, that would be different. I think the problems that you're mentioning largely are happening in urban women simply because their physical activity, even if they exercise, it's half an hour, 1 hour in the morning, rest of the time they're sitting. So, because of this, there is not enough activity in that region. That's one reason. Another thing is reproductive process is not made use of, that's another reason. So if you're not using your reproduction process, that is, if you're not bearing a child before you're 21 years of age, it's very, very important that you must do hatha yoga. If you do gym, if you run, if you do this and that, run to some extent. But if you're just gymming and doing muscles and you're looking fit, that's not good. You must do intense hatha yoga. From the age of 12, if a girl child starts doing hatha yoga, she will go through all those issues most of them think is a big issue and go through lots of struggles for every stage of development within themselves. They will go through this effortlessly. So this has to come, that if reproductive health of a woman has to be maintained without reproducing, it's very important that certain things are done, and that part of what you're doing should be largely focused in the thoracic region or the abdominal region, must be worked in a certain way. There is no system which works it the way the hatha yoga, the systems of hatha yoga will work it, and there are specific asanas and processes which can be taught. If they do this, they need not go through all those medical stuff that unfortunately the numbers are rising in a big way. Another dimension of this is also urban young women these days, a lot of them are very disturbed about something or the other. At one time, only your family or your children or your husband or your immediate friends disturbed you. Now you have friendship across the globe and just about anybody can freak you anytime. So just a message is enough that you worry about it for next 3 days, for whatever reasons. I don't want to blame it on any one thing. It has become a norm that everybody must be stressed. So this also can be very easily handled. The basic body chemistry can be brought to such a level of balance within you if you do the right kind of yoga. And this is the solution for the future generations. Otherwise, this will rise because today, I think, including the rural, tribal, all kinds of women put together, the average childbearing age, I think, has gone up to 22 or so. But I believe in the next 25 years, it will go to 35 most probably, and it's a very good thing. So if it goes up to 35, then the number of these type of issues that young women will have will multiply manyfold unless they take care of themselves. Taking care of themselves is not about medicine, not about doctors. You must start yogic processes so that the body brings a certain balance. Chemical balance is there in the system, hormonal balance is there in the system, all this glandular secretions are happening well in a balanced manner. If this is happening, they will not go into this mode of unnecessary ailment. Well, a percentage of people will always have some physical illness, that's a different matter, but right now there's an unnatural level of percentages. The society is reaching an unnatural level of sickness, so that has to be brought down, it's very important.
Does anything worry you? Do you have bad days? This question is from Subhash.
First of all, I don't have days. Because the days are only in your memory. In your reality, there's only now, isn't it? Yes or no? The problem right now is human intellect. See, of all the gadgets that you have, I know he's looking into his favorite gadget. What are you, Apple or Samsung you? Okay. No, because it's a religion, so I'm asking. It's almost like asking, are you Hindu, Muslim, Christian, what are you? Are you Apple, Samsung or BlackBerry? We're almost getting there, isn't it? So, human intellect, of all the gadgets that you have, even including the Apple, human mind is the most sophisticated gadget on this planet. Do you agree with me? Every other gadget has come out of this. But we are busy looking into the iPhone, completely missing the eye. Right now, for most human beings, let me not use the word most, for too many human beings, this mind is not a miracle that it actually is. For so many human beings, this mind has become a misery manufacturing machine. All the misery, human misery on this planet, where is it manufactured? Madras? No, in your mind, isn't it? What should have been the greatest miracle, unfortunately has become a source of misery for human beings. Why is this so? There are two dimensions to your intelligence. One is perception, one is the penetration of your intelligence, another is the memory aspect of it. Because of the kind of education systems that you're suffering right now, which is 100% memory-based, all you have to do is memorize something, vomit it somewhere. Your idea of being intelligent right now has become purely memory-based. Today evening at the tea party, you don't have to know anything. You just have to surf the internet, pick up some facts about that 64, T64 galaxy that nobody knows about. You get some information and throw it around, people think you're smart. Because our whole idea of intelligence has become memory, unfortunately. Once you're dipping your hand into memory, your intelligence becomes very cyclical. Because it's recycling the past in so many different ways, it looks smart for somebody who doesn't know that, otherwise it's just nonsense. Today we know a goddamn chip can record more than your brain can record. It is not intelligence. Memory is just a resource, it is not an intelligence. The nature of the intelligence and the purpose of human intellect is that it should be able to penetrate. But it has got such a huge backlog, it is identified with the memory in such a bad way, it has lost its penetration. It is like you have a knife. Intellect is like a knife, it can cut through anything. But now you have a knife where the apple is sticking. Now whatever you try to cut, it's not going to cut anything because there's a big apple sticking here. This is what has happened, a huge bank of memory is sticking to it and it's lost its penetration. This is a tremendous loss that's happened to humanity because of the nature of education systems that we have crafted. So the fundamental process of spiritual process is to sharpen this intellect in such a way that if you sit here, your memory does not influence you. Your intelligence is simply here, it sees everything just the way it is. If this doesn't happen to you, your intellect will become the source of your suffering. You will see educated people are definitely suffering more than the uneducated on this planet, isn't it so? They're also causing much more suffering. The planet is suffering mainly because of educated people, not because of uneducated people. Yes or no? The very life of the planet is being threatened by the educated, not by the uneducated, because it is a completely memory-based education. It is not intelligence-based education. We need to shift this. If the education systems are not going to shift it, as individual people, you must shift, especially if you want to be an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur means you must create an opportunity where there isn't one. That is enterprise, isn't it?
But right from his childhood, Shiva has so fired him up. And just some 25 kilometers away, there's a famous Shiva temple. And he feels Shiva is calling him. But his life is not his own, he cannot make the trip. Any number of times he presented his case to the landlord, just one day trip. I will go to the temple and come back. Landlord always said, today there is weeding, day after tomorrow there is fertilizing, day after tomorrow there is some other work, you have to till the land. Now, one day you can't waste, what do you think? As it is, you're a useless fellow. One day you want to waste in a life. Any number of times presented the case. They started building up within him. He wants to see Shiva. This time he went and stood in front of the landlord with a different kind of dignity that a bonded labor never knows. Not supposed to have. And the landlord started off, you idiot, last time your mother was sick, before that your sister was getting married, before that your grandmother died 3 times over. Now you want to go to the temple, nothing doing. He said, I'll do all the work today, tomorrow, just a day trip, I will go and come. Then the landlord, in some moment, just this new dignity in the man, the new energy that was reverberating in him, in a moment the landlord gave in and said, okay, go and come back before evening. Then he realized what he's done. Then he said, before you leave, all the 40 acres you must till and go. Entire 40 acres you must plow. It's evening. Before morning you must plow and then go to the temple. He was not foolish enough, he went to attempt that. He just went to bed. His entire system was reverberating. He knew he will go to the temple no matter what's the consequence. A new kind of energy has been reverberating through his entire body. Morning before he woke up, there was a big commotion in the village. What is it? entire 40 acres was plowed. And he came out and looked, he couldn't believe it. The landlord was standing with his mouth open. Landlord's wife and children started coming and falling at this man's feet, whose name we do not know. Generally he is referred to as the tiller. He couldn't believe this. Then he knew, he always thought, by appealing to Shiva, he can move the laws of nature, he can bend the laws of nature. But the laws of men are so cruel that you can never bend them. But here, the laws of men and gods and nature all bent. Suddenly people came, put silver coins in his hand. Somebody put a food hamper in his hand, somebody gave him a stick and said, he's gone to the temple, he's a chosen one. Shiva himself has come and plowed 40 acres of land. He went to the temple with great joy in his heart. But having lived the life of an outcast, he's not forgotten that he cannot cross the threshold of the temple. He stood there. Of course they wouldn't let him into the temple. He knew they're not going to bend the rules, and all he wants to do is just see once. The big Nandi which was sitting in his way, the Nandi moved to one side. And later on people called him Nandanath, became a famous sage. Nobody ever knew his name because he's just known as a tiller. But his entire life is just this one thing. You cannot even call him a devotee, just intrigued, unwilling to let go of the intrigue. The problem with most logical minds is something intrigues you, then you give a stupid explanation to it and you kill it right there. Most minds are incapable of living with intrigue. They want a stupid answer to it today, and they'll come to a conclusion tonight before they go to bed. Oh, this is like this, that is like that. Every idiot on the planet thinks he's a scientist because they read some textbook in the school. The stupid textbook is no more relevant. Anybody, any man of science will not accept this stupid stuff anymore. There is so much here. There is so much everywhere. Unanswered. You don't have the intelligence or the means to answer these questions. Just remain with that. That is a sincere human being. One who knows that he doesn't know the answers is a sincere human being. One who finds a silly logical answer is a foolish human being. But he thinks he's smart. This is all that's needed. You just have to walk with this intrigue. If you have devotion in your heart, fantastic. If you don't have devotion in your heart, your mind bothers you. Just maintain the intrigue. That's all it takes.
In other cultures, all of them are dismissed as angels. Here, different quality beings have been identified as different types. You call for a particular being for a particular kind of benefit, so that you have an advantage of achieving things much more than you would do by your normal strength and capabilities. In this tradition, we have various kinds of beings. They are all particularly identified according to their quality. We have humans, and of course the animal nature and all those things that you can see around you. Those beings that you cannot see, there are some which we call as Bhuta Preta category. There are other beings that we call as Yakshas. There are other kinds of beings that we call as Gandharvas. And there are Devas. So based on this, there are tree gods, there are monkey gods, there are elephant gods, there is fruit god, there is vegetable god, there is flower god. For everything there is a god. Is this all figment of imagination? No, it is… everything is happening because of certain forces. They identified these forces and personified them and created a method as to how to find excess.
These yajnas were processes through which you can find access to certain forces in the existence so that you have an advantage of achieving things much more than you would do by your normal strength and capabilities. The word yajna has been translated as sacrifice. So the English word sacrifice you would always understand as giving up something for something else or giving up something for nothing. That's a sacrifice, okay? Giving up something for something else is commerce. Giving up something for nothing is sacrifice. So, yajna need not necessarily mean a sacrifice. Probably, yajna is a combination of an offering, an oblation, and a sacrifice. It's a mixture of all these three things. A ritual through which you can please certain forces in the existence. In other cultures, generally they have not been properly identified and classified, all of them are dismissed as angels. But here, different quality beings have been identified as different types, and accordingly you call for a particular being for a particular kind of benefit. There is a whole process and science behind it. Even today, people are using these yagas and yajnas. Generally, for a lot of them it may not work because it's not being properly conducted the way it should be. But for many people it does work. There are many people who are hugely benefited by these things. People do achieve what they want to do in the material world by using yagas and yajnas in a certain way. Even though it doesn't matter how educated they are and how much liberation they talk about, even today, 95% of the Indians, if they want to enter a new home, they will do yagas and yajnas before they get in. Only here at Isha we don't do anything because we're a different breed. If you are in a certain level of consciousness and energy, everything that you do is a yajna. You don't have to do a separate ritual, the very way you live is a yajna. So yajnas are of different kinds. Yajna means a certain means to access a dimension which is right now not in your access. One is a ritualistic yajna, that you perform something, an expert in the field comes and does something for you through which you receive some benefit, or you have made your very life process into your yajna. Now you sit in the morning and you're doing your Shakti Chalana Kriya or your Shambhavi Mahamudra. This is an internal yajna. Without that sense of offering, you will never know the essence of that practice. If you make this a process, it's a very powerful yajna through which things happen in the world, not just for yourself. Things will happen around you beautifully. We have been saying constantly, if 1% of the world can become meditative, the remaining 99% will just pass very easily. Because if 1% of the world really begins to function, every moment of their life, their very life process is a yajna, if they become like this, the 99% will reap the benefit without doing anything about it. One person plants a mango tree, 100 people can eat it. One person cannot eat what comes out of one tree. It takes 100 people to eat it. So similarly, if you have made your life process itself into a yajna, if you have made your life process itself into an offering, then thousands of people can eat out of it. You would see simple women, just they made their life into total sacrifice for people who live around them in their family. They just cook, they serve, they never thought about themselves. What about me never came to them. You see, they are sage-like by themselves. My mother was a living example like this. She was educated enough, but her whole life was just serving her husband and children, that's all. Never we heard her telling us, I love you, but such a question never arose. Whether she loves me or not never arose in our minds. because the very way she lives is in complete sacrifice for everybody around us. And nobody ever uttered anything about it, but in many ways, she was a goddess by herself. Everybody treated her as such. If she has to eat her morning breakfast, everybody in the family would have eaten. Then she will take a part of her breakfast and go to the backyard. She will look for anthills, nest of ants, and she will feed all the ants first, and then only she will eat. In today's mind, people may think, eating ants, what nonsense. Spray insecticide, isn't it? If it came into the house, if it bit her children, she also did that. But somewhere in her mind, she felt the ants have as much right to live on this planet as she had. And just that little offering, everything is a sacrifice, everything is a…
The idea that we need to protect this planet itself is a convoluted idea because it is not because of us that the planet is there, it is because of the planet we are there. Even to think me and the planet is a completely wrong notion because what you call as myself, the physical presence of who you are, is just an outcrop of this planet. Whatever you experience as a part of yourself, with that nobody has to tell you, please take care of this, anyway you will take care of it. The planet is for all of us and we cannot exist here by ourselves. Our existence here is not because of our economic activity. Right now we are made to believe it is because of the percentages of growth that's happening in this country you will live well. No, we will live well here if everything is green, beautiful, water is flowing, air is pure, we will live well here. This idea has to go into every human being's mind, into every citizen's mind, into every child's mind. You must always be conscious of the life other than human life. Most people are not even conscious of the human beings, so I'm reminding you, you must be conscious of everything that is alive. A tree, a plant, a blade of grass, a grasshopper hopping, you must be alive to everything. Constantly the air around us is entering us and coming out of us, and this is the basis of our life. What you exhale, the trees are inhaling. What the trees exhale, you are inhaling. There's a constant transaction going on. If we stop this process of breath for 1 minute, we understand that without transacting with the air around us, we cannot live for a moment. Similarly, on the level of water and on the level of earth, this transaction is going on. So how we keep the atmospheres around us, the water bodies around us, will determine the nature and the quality of our life.
Whenever a child enters people's lives, they always think it's time to teach. No, when a child enters your life, it's time to learn. Because between you and your child, who is more joyful? Child. So who should be a consultant for life? Definitely he's better qualified than you, isn't he? You have to teach him a few survival skills that he will learn anyway. You can also guide him a little bit. But when it comes to life, he is able to make any simple situation a joyful situation. So definitely he must be the consultant for life, isn't it? It doesn't matter how glum you are, if you have a child in your house, unknowingly you will laugh, unknowingly you will play, unknowingly you will dance, unknowingly you will crawl under the sofa. These are not things you have done for a long time. So, the most important thing is don't infect the child with what you call as adulthood. This is not adulthood, okay? This is just suicide in installments. With anything, he can make a situation wonderful for himself. It doesn't matter what. You give him a piece of wood, with that he makes his life for the whole afternoon, isn't it? You have to learn to live like him. And see, when you were growing up, whatever problems when you had, did you go to your parents or to your friends? Whom did you share it with? Friends.
Why is it that parents who have been with the children right from day one can't be good friends? You just have to get off your pedestal. That's the most important thing. And be a friend. If he has anything, you should be the first person that they share with, isn't it? Yes? That's a very important safety net for the child. It doesn't matter what their problem is. If you leave that level of openness and friendship with them, if they come to you first, there's every possibility that they won't get lost in something, especially in a society like this, where the moment the child steps out, you don't know what influences are going to catch him up. The most important thing is this, the parents should get off their pedestal and start treating them as equals, and this has to happen right from childhood, that he never sees you as somebody who's pushing him around or bossing around or all the time advising him about something, that you are very much a friend, he can talk to you and you talk to him as an equal. If this is maintained right from the beginning, when he is developing and when there are possibilities of he's taking wrong steps and things like that, you will be the first person he comes to. That is something we have to build, isn't it?